Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, episode number 148? Gosh, have we really been doing this that long? Well, the only person that will know for sure is my original podcast co-pilot, Mr. Derek Marsh. Derek, how's it going?
Good evening. It is going pretty well. It is hot outside, like the desert of Tatooine.
Blazing hot. I feel like we might have two suns now. Spontaneously, another sun has sprung into existence because.
Did you guys break 100 yet?
Not yet here in Forest City in North Carolina. Thankfully, I live in the isothermal belt. Iso, of course, meaning stationary, thermal meaning heat. So we don't actually get that hot or that cold. It's one of our little tricks here in this kind of valley. But it was like 92, which is hot enough for me.
Gotta make sure you gotta go out there with protection on the top of the chrome too. So
that's right. The chrome dome here was absolutely not out in the sun today. I did grill out for Sunday lunch with my in-laws and my beautiful bride, but I did it all in the cover of shade here at the Dome Asile. So
the dome,
not direct sunlight. So, but somebody else who would be sweltering in this heat is our very hairy co-pilot, Mr. Gooey Chewy, our very own Dave Filclone, Mr. Miracle, man of 1,000 nicknames. It's Nathan Miracle. Nathan, you keeping cool?
Man, I think it hit 127 degrees out here. So no, I'm not keeping cool.
See, now normally I'd make a Fahrenheit Celsius joke, but if it was 127 Celsius,
that would burn up.
Even
That's
worse.
What I meant. What did you think I meant? Yeah, no, it legitimately got up to about 90 degrees Fahrenheit here, and the older I get, the less I can handle that.
So you're going to move up north, or are you going to move nowhere?
Nowhere.
Pluto. He's moving to
Pluto. Pluto. Yes, that's the plan. Move to Pluto.
I have the windows open in the dome. If anybody's watching the video and look over my shoulder there, I've actually opened up all the cupola windows because so much heat. Also, that helps with eliminating moisture from the dome, and when it's hot, the moisture builds up at the center. Thermodynamics of my house. It's really cool, and it makes it much easier to save money on the air conditioning. Although, even us having this heat wave is going to have a higher power bill. But that's not what this podcast is about. The only power we're worried about are some power converters at Tashi Station. Or maybe Gonki, the power droid.
Anyway, has the right to control and use that power.
That's right. This is not about good or evil.
It's clearly about Tashi Station.
It's about Tashi Station, yes.
But
tonight's episode of the podcast is about The Acolyte, episode number 4, which is titled Day. Leading me, of course, to believe that we're going to get another episode someday soon labeled Night. In fact, I'm kind of hoping that will be the next one. But that's a question for a little bit later in the show. We'll go ahead and kick things off with our overall take on this episode of The Acolyte. I really liked this episode, guys. I felt we really moved the story forward, so we were done with flashbacks for the time being, and we got to see Master Kelnaka meet his end, or rather, we saw him right after he met his end. We didn't actually see him get killed. We just saw his smoldering chest in his body there. And
did he have a Z for Zorro? It looked like a Z.
It was just one slash, but I like where your head's at.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Anyway, but we had one of the greatest entrances in all of evil Darksider usage of Star Wars, and that was the guy I'm affectionately calling. Yeah, go ahead, Derek. Do the thing. There you go.
It just fades into the back.
Affectionately calling Darth Teeth kind of floated down behind Osha. And it was absolutely terrifying. I got the most Bela Lugosi vibes I have gotten from Star Wars in a long, long time. And I loved it. I'm like, now that's how you be a bad guy. You're just quiet, absolutely silently, ominously floating.
Everybody else behind her's like, and she's like, he's behind me, isn't he?
Exactly. He's behind me, isn't he?
And if he were a dad, he'd be all like, prepare for an OSHA violation.
No, boo!
Well, she wasn't obviously wearing her safety harness because she got zipped away pretty quickly.
That's true. That's true.
Yep. It's like, get out of here.
Hopefully she was wearing her hard hat.
So you guys can probably guess what my answer to the first question is going to be. But before we get to the questions, Derek, your overall thoughts about this episode?
Yeah, I liked it. Again, it sucks because the episodes are so short.
Yeah,
But
you're
it's
like,
always a
"Come
good
on."
thing when the bad part is it's too short.
Yeah. There's a couple of nitpick things I'll pick for number 2 when we get to what I didn't like, but yeah, just overall, again, I wish Disney in itself would pace these a little bit better when it comes to their series. Either pick 30-minute shows or pick an hour, and get it really close to those. This zigzagging between 33 and 54 minutes, which you never know what you're getting week to week, but most of the time it's around 40 some minutes, low 40s. I just feel like it's like I could use another 10 plus minutes in each of these episodes to help flush out a little bit. But like I said, I digress. But no, I enjoyed it. It was a fun episode. Surprised like you guys that we already got the big bad revealed. There was no
Sort of.
qualms about it at this point with what we saw, revealed in episode 1 at the end, with Darth Teeth and his lightsaber, or her lightsaber, because we don't know. Yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that episode today.
Cool. Nathan, your overall thoughts about episode 4?
I'm on the same page as Derek here. I thought this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite episode overall so far of The Acolyte. Now, for The Acolyte itself, kind of doing a halfway retrospective here, I wouldn't say that that's my favorite series so far. I think it's decently good. Definitely better than, say, Book of Boba Fett or Mando Season 3, but it's not hitting the heights of the first 2 seasons of Mando for me, or Andor, something like that. So, but yeah, this episode I think was a positive contribution. There are several things that I like about this episode. I'm definitely going to have a harder time picking what was my favorite thing from this episode than I am my least favorite thing.
Okay, cool. That's good to hear. Well, anyway, speaking of picking your favorite thing from this episode, I'll go first because it should be obvious. The entrance of Darth Teeth, and I'm definitely going to keep calling him that. Whatever.
Or is it Dr. Teeth or Darth Teeth?
So the reason I called him Darth Teeth is because somebody put up a meme of the Sith thing, or the dark side.
And Dr. Teeth from Electric Mayhem.
And Dr. Teeth from Electric Mayhem next to each other to emphasize the fact that one of the teeth on the mask appeared to be like glinting.
Gold.
And it's all like, all I can see now is that this is Dr. Teeth from the Muppets. And totally allowed because Disney owns both Lucasfilm and the Jim Henson Company. So, boom, Dr. Teeth is now
Well, they own the
Darth
Muppets.
And
Teeth.
If
True,
he,
they own the Muppets, yeah.
if he uses Force Lightning, then he becomes Darth Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Well done. Well done. I'm not even mad. That was amazing.
He wants that, because deep down that's what Scott wants on the next episode.
That's absolutely
I mean, all
what
we
I
got
want
was
to happen.
dust push, so that's not
Yeah,
quite.
we got a force push, so that was cool. We're getting there, right? But yeah, I feel like we're supposed to assume that Darth Teeth is in fact a Darth and is Sith because of the red lightsaber. Heretofore, I can't think of any Night Sisters that have used red lightsabers or lightsabers of any kind. Well, that's true, but I was thinking
but
by the
all
time
the
she was
Inquisitors.
doing that, she kind of like stopped being a Night Sister, right?
No, she had a red lightsaber as soon as she had it. When she stopped being a apprentice, and because Count Dooku was trying to kill her, when she lost her lightsabers fighting Ahsoka, that's when she got the yellow lightsabers for where she's at now.
No, what I mean is when she was Dooku's apprentice or acolyte or whatever we're going to call her, she had red lightsabers, but she was done being a Night Sister.
I think she kind of tried to walk both paths.
Mm-hmm.
She was a bit of a Night Sister, but not a traditional Night Sister. She was a bit of a Sith, but not one of the two. So she kind of had one foot in both worlds, and yet was not really part of either.
I would agree with Nathan, because if you remember, right, Dooku went to Mother Talzin to get Asajj, because then when Asajj failed, he then got Savage oppressed and went back to Mother Talzin. So I would say that any point in time that Asajj was still Night Sister, she just never really bothered to go back because she was assigned to Dooku as the apprentice, and she was hoping to do more with him, right? And overtake Sidious at some point.
Did she have lightsabers when Dooku came to get her?
Well, this is an interesting point to bring up in today's episode because of something we're going to talk about a little bit later. There are conflicting stories as to how she became Dooku's apprentice. And the main one that I'm familiar with is that she actually confronted Dooku and declared that she was a Sith.
Right.
And already had lightsabers at that point. And Dooku was basically amused. It's like, hey, yeah, no, you are not a Sith, and easily defeated her, but chose not to kill her and instead take her on as an apprentice. So based on that story, which I believe that was actually in the I cannot pronounce the guy's name, the original Clone Wars cartoon, the 2D animated.
Jindy Tartakovsky.
That guy. I believe that was actually in that.
Okay.
But
which,
of course,
is not canon.
Is not canon. So there's not a canon way that she became Dooku's apprentice. It does make sense that he would have gone to the Night Sisters, though, because he definitely, in canon, did do that to get Savage oppressed.
Well, be that as it may. So definitely...
That's because they got Maul from there, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's
it definitely could be the case, therefore, that this person who is Darth Teeth is not a Darth, is not Sith, just happens to have a red lightsaber.
Yeah.
But, it's tough because live action-wise, if you have a red lightsaber, generally speaking... Actually,
it's dark side,
live action. I can't think of a dark sider in
the Inquisitors.
Live action. Well, yeah, but they had.
But they're not Darths, though. Is what I'm trying to say.
They're not Darths. They were trained by a Sith.
Yeah, they're trained by Sith,
which is a similar position that Kylo Ren is in. But he's not officially a Darth or officially a Sith, but he was trained by proxy by Darth Sidious. Yeah. So.
And of course, certainly had a red lightsaber.
Right.
So yeah,
red just symbolizes they're on the dark side. Yeah,
right.
But they don't have.
Anyway,
to be
I'm saying I would not be surprised if it turns out that the person pulling the strings here is Sith, primarily because of the red lightsaber, but also because the Sith code got mentioned in episode 2 of The Acolyte. So that was a fairly big red flag, in my opinion, about, hey, look at these Sith guys speaking about Sith philosophy. But either way, my answer to question 1 is I loved the entrance of the bad guy. Nathan, why don't you go next? You had something else to say.
Well, I was going to question, we had talked about the possibility of the bad guy being Darth Kumir.
Yeah.
Do we still think that? I almost don't, because this episode almost beat us over the head with the idea that it could be. Like, to the point where I'm like, is he just a red herring?
Maybe. Derek also had a good point about how it can't be Kumir unless Kumir is really selling some kind of disguise.
Well, no, Kumir isn't Dr. Teeth, or isn't Darth Teeth. He's
No, we're going with Dr. Teeth.
Dr. Teeth. Dr. Teeth is the apprentice that is instructed to train May and try to do that. Kiram is, am I saying his name right, Kiram?
Kumir.
I think that's
Kumir.
right.
Kumir.
Kumir.
Kumir's actually the master, is what my impression is. He's the actual master.
So we do actually have 2 other Sith out there,
yes.
and May is the Acolyte, not an actual Sith apprentice. That makes sense.
She is, there, like I said, we'll go into this in question 5, but but that's where I think.
All right.
Okay. All right.
I do have a different moment that was my favorite single moment of this episode because I felt it was very symbolic. After Osha touches the Umber Moth, which I did look at the subtitles to see what that was. It is an Umber Moth. And it goes up and flies up in the air, and Sol ignites his lightsaber. The Umber Moth comes right at the lightsaber, and one of the other Jedi says, it was attracted to the light. And I loved that moment because Osha is right there. And she just witnessed something be attracted to the light, attracted by a lightsaber, and it killed that thing. So I think in her mind, that was a moment for her to be like, oh gosh, I was attracted to the light. I was attracted by that same lightsaber because it's Soul's lightsaber. I was attracted to the Jedi by that. And in some very real sense, it has destroyed her. So
But she also blamed herself for the death, though, because she said if she hadn't disturbed it, it wouldn't have died.
And I think she blames herself for what happened 16 years ago, too.
Oh, yes.
So I think that moment was incredibly symbolic for her. And I loved it because it didn't beat you over the head with it. It wasn't, hey, this symbolism means precisely this. But it was there if you were looking for it. And I love when stories do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Good analysis, Nathan. Derek, what was your favorite part of this episode?
So again, just one of the things that I do want to give kudos. This has been a lot better than some of the previous Star Wars, series shows. I just like the atmosphere. I think they've done a really good job. The layout, the forest where we're going, it feels fantasy, sci-fi, whatever. It's not all stupid deserts. Like everyone wants to go back.
Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
Are we on Jakku or are we on Tatooine? I'm not real sure. It's basically the same place.
So the fact that we haven't really been much to a desert planet at all so far in the first 4 episodes, I'm pretty good with that. So, but no, I just really enjoyed that. I enjoyed for how short it was. I enjoyed quote unquote kind of the hunt. It was pretty cool. I'm still lost at the point of light speed travel because there's so many conflicting things where sometimes it takes days and sometimes it feels like moments, because this felt too much like a moment, because they literally had to go all the way back to Coruscant, get their directions that they had to from Master
Verdestra.
Verdestra. Okay, either way.
Master Green Lady.
Yeah.
Master Green Girl.
Yeah. Non-Hawk. And then next thing you know, they're on the forest planet or whatever, going, after Kalnaka. And ironically, there's May, right? And they're not that far behind because they all land at like the same time, apparently. So that was the only thing that I could say that, like I said, that was a little trying to understand what the time frame was, because like I said, previous other things, it's like, well, we're in hyperspeed for light speed for many hours or whatever we need to go, or days even, and it's like, okay, where are we at?
Yeah, and this is a problem that science fiction has dealt with throughout, as many stories as have had faster than light travel. It happens in Star Trek. It happens in pretty much every science fiction. Spaceships move at the speed of plot. And sometimes it doesn't make sense when 2 different spaceships are moving at 2 different plot speeds.
Oh, and it's just they're landing at the same time, right? It's like, there's plot armor.
It very much felt like the game master was all, does anybody have anything they need to do before we arrive on Kalnaka's planet? No?
Nope.
Okay, good. You're there now.
And we're there.
Yeah. All right. Well, question number 2. I don't know if Derek's going to bring up the time dilation and light speed again, but what did you like least about this episode, Derek?
No, I'm not going to bring that one up because, like I said, it's just some little nitpick things. I mean, really, this one, it's been again kind of with the timing, like we talked about a little bit earlier too, nitpicking it. I feel, and what I don't understand is, because we know, in theory at least, that they said, who knows, because we're talking about earlier, apparently half the internet wants to crap on this show without even really watching it or understanding anything. They just want to be offended by they used a pronoun, heaven forbid, or whatever, right. Or they're changing some canon things that we'll talk about.
Yes.
What was canon from a comic book or a CCG card or something, right? But anyways, because you liked it, Scott, to your point, and I thought it was cool. Don't get me wrong, the scene, but the pacing is just, I don't know. I really was hoping it was going to be a little bit more of a slow burn, and it's not, because it almost deters from what they originally were doing, and now we just go straight into thick of things with May and Osha and the Night Sisters, and it's not. I just don't feel like it's building to anything at this point. I feel like it's just rush, rush, rush. Okay, we're all here. We got the big reveal, but we'll talk about it later. But to me, that's the one thing I don't like about that portion of the scene. Again, it was executed very cool. I literally liked, that point in the action and the force push and the dust and the lightsabers and everything. But I just don't care for the pacing because I don't understand what this show is supposed to be. Because it's just like a little bit of every episode. It's a little bit of something else, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just feel like I can't quite enjoy it as much because I'm like, okay, this episode is going to be a murder mystery. This episode is going to be a martial arts fight theme. This one's going to be a backstory, and this one's going to be the big bad's revealed already. And we're just 4 episodes in, and I'm like, okay, I'm okay with what we're doing here story wise. I'm just, like I said, the pacing to me and what the show is trying to be, it's better to me if you just pick a genre or a thing and just really execute that well, rather than trying to be half-assed and do everything. At least, again, my perception of what I like in shows. So that's the one thing I don't like right now is just where are we going with this show, because there's just a little bit of everything, which again, it's nothing wrong with it, but I feel like I can't enjoy it as much because I don't feel like they're putting enough focus, as we talked about, because every episode's only 30 some minutes long.
Yeah. Nathan, what did you dislike about this episode?
All right. Well, as soon as we watched the episode, I messaged you guys and said, y'all are probably going to be able to guess what my least favorite part of this episode was. And indeed, Scott, you responded back almost immediately with Master Kelnaka. Yeah.
No.
I hate the fact that Master Kelnaka died. I wanted so much more from him. Fortunately for me, we are going to get more from him. We have seen previews where he is active in scenes that we have not yet seen in the first 4 episodes. So we're definitely going to get some flashbacks. We're going to get some more information on him. I don't know that we're going to see the fight in the hut, which I'm calling it.
It didn't look like much of a hot fight, to be honest.
It did not. And I think that's part of the reason we didn't see it. Is because if we had seen it, it would have just been disappointing. Sometimes not showing something can be more impactful than actually showing it. I think that would have been the case here. So I'm actually kind of glad we didn't see it, but I'm also very sad that it happened because I wanted to see more Wookiee Jedi. I wanted to see the way of the far palm.
Yeah. That would have been awesome.
Sorry,
and I'm like you.
Paul.
Yes. And I'm like you. I wanted to see more, and I really want to know more about why did he have Mother Anastaea's symbols on the walls of the spaceship he was living in? By the way, crashed starship. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I call it his hut because in the old Star Wars CCG from Decipher, oftentimes
Kelnaka's hut.
Various sites would be so-and-so's hut, even if it wasn't really quite a hut.
Much of a hut.
Yeah, Yoda's hut, Obi-Wan's hut, Luke's hut, all of
Jabba
that.
the Hutt. Wait a minute.
That one wasn't a site.
It's large enough to be a hut.
It should have been.
Ew.
So
I
I
thought they
think
smelled bad on the outside.
You have to walk around him, literally.
I think there are 2 obvious possibilities as for why that symbol is there, but obvious but very conflicting possibilities. One is that Kelnaka has deep regret for what he did back 16 years ago and kept a symbol from the witch tribe as a reminder of never again type thing. The other possibility is that Darth Teeth got there while he was out and planted those as some way to keep him docile so that he could just walk in and be like, okay, zoop, you dead, instead of having to fight a Wookiee.
Yeah, because Night Sisters often, well, not often, but the way they do their force magic is through some kind of symbols, right? Like on themselves or on their items or apparently on the wall. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's an
so
interesting
it could be a
theory.
trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. So yeah, that's pretty cool. The thing that I disliked the most about this episode, we'll go ahead and bring up the craziness, is the fact that Master Ki-Adi-Mundi was shown, young Ki-Adi-Mundi with, nice fully colored goatee, not white goatee, because, oh my god, you guys, they have retconned Ki-Adi-Mundi for, I don't know, like maybe the third time here, which doesn't bother me. What bothered me was, by picking him, it's like they were inviting all of these massive complaints about this breaks canon from the grognards on the internet. And I'm like, couldn't you have picked a different Jedi? One that A, hasn't been retconned already. We'll talk about that in just a second. And B, one that didn't famously say, the Sith have not been seen for a millennia in the Phantom Menace.
I think that was the joke, and a lot of people just didn't get it.
Well, clearly,
Ki-Adi-Mundi,
a lot of people didn't get it.
That clearly, yes. Ki-Adi-Mundi is famously wrong about the Sith because A, he says that, and clearly he's wrong. They've been active for that whole time. But B, in Attack of the Clones, he's the guy who says Count Dooku is a political idealist. He's not a murderer. He is always wrong about the Sith. And guess what? He's wrong again.
That's
really
why
bad
he's perfect for that team that they're on, because they're full of themselves.
Yeah.
So.
They're absolutely screwing the pooch when it comes to this investigation.
Yeah,
I'm still of the opinion
anybody's
that
going to be like, psh, psh, yeah, they're not Sith. It's him.
So a lot of your grognards, or the fandom menaces, some people like to call them. I don't like to call them that, but I'm going to go with grognards because it's an older term. It's an older term, but it checks out. And so I like saying that they were all talking about how Ki-Adi-Mundi was once again wrong about the Sith. How come he doesn't know this? And I'm all, well, maybe everybody who sees Darth Teeth dies, and no one reports back to Ki-Adi-Mundi or the rest of the Jedi. So as far as they know, well, that wasn't a Sith. It was just some fallen Jedi, some political idealist like Count Dooku or whatever. But again, this isn't really my crux of the issue. Ki-Adi-Mundi being incorrect is fine, because people on the Jedi Council, especially in the prequel era, are wrong all the dang time. But it was the fact that he has been retconned so many times now. He's almost been retconned as often as the death of Shakti. But so, I'm going to add my screen here. Here's a comic book from December of 1998. Astute listeners
Which,
will
by the
know,
way,
December
isn't canon.
is not canon
Right,
anymore. December of 98, of course, is before the Phantom Menace released in theaters, and we have Ki-Adi-Mundi. He's like on the cover of this comic, split in half by a lightsaber. On the other side, opposing him is, I guess it's Battle of Guys with Long Heads, because on the dark side is Afont Mon, a Chevin smuggler, who we saw in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. Apparently, Chevin are also rather long-lived. Anyway, so Ki-Adi-Mundi is in this series of comics from Dark Horse Comics, issues 1 through 6 of a limited series called Prelude to Rebellion. And in this comic, not only is he a Jedi Knight and not a Master, but he has a wife and several kids. In fact, I believe he may have more than one wife because of the way his species works. But this, of course, is before all of this emphasis from Attack of the Clones on the fact that Jedi are supposed to be like celibate and not have kids. Now, there's never an explicit moment in the movies that states this, but it's heavily implied in a lot of places, right up to the fact that for some reason Anakin sort of has to keep his consort with
So does Obi-Wan.
into in a secret way, although he's terrible at keeping secrets. Yeah,
Yeah,
Obi-Wan as well,
Obi-Wan,
right there.
later in the Clone Wars, we
Duchess
find out
Satine.
that Duchess Satine and Obi-Wan almost had a thing, but
Almost had a baby.
and Obi-Wan said, if you had given the word, I would have left the Jedi Order. So yeah,
Implying, of course, that he would have to leave in order to have children with Satine.
And if
Right.
only he would have.
Yeah, what a different galaxy that would be. But yeah, but then of course this comic book sort of gets retconned almost immediately in the Phantom Menace itself by having Ki-Adi-Mundi be on the Jedi Council. Because as we know from the travails of poor Skywalker, he gets put on the council but not granted the rank of master, which he acts like is the weirdest thing ever and a total affront. Which would be rather odd if there was another dude right there who met that criteria. But of course, for a little while, Ki-Adi-Mundi did meet that criteria until that also got retconned about our favorite Syrian, Ki-Adi-Mundi. Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, and to be clear, Anakin didn't just act like that had never happened before. He explicitly says that no one has ever been on the council and not been a master, which is either incredibly wrong because somebody is on the council right now who was not a master when he joined the council, or this card that we have on screen from the Decipher collectible card game, which is Ki-Adi-Mundi, is wrong because it explicitly says in the lore that he is the only Jedi Council member who does not have the rank of master. He also has ability 6, which in that game was Jedi Knight status, whereas ability 7 was Jedi Master status.
He didn't have the Force icon either.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, he did not have the I am a Jedi Master Force icon in the upper left-hand corner. So he... And this was approved by Lucasfilm. Decipher had to send all of their potential cards to Lucasfilm to get approval to be printed. So this was...
It's almost like the year before the Phantom Menace came out, they had a whole different thing in mind for the way the council worked and Cam himself.
Indeed. So Lucasfilm approved this card. Now, that doesn't mean that's necessarily canon. There's lots of things that Lucasfilm approved that have turned out to not be canon since then, that were either contradicted by Lucasfilm. In this case, this was contradicted because Lucasfilm later said there were no people on the council who were not masters, or have been contradicted later once Disney acquired and said everything that was not part of the movies is not canon. The extended universe, is now Legends and not
Which is
canon.
definitely for the best, because I really don't like an idea of Luke falling in love with a computer. Which did happen in the old EU.
When people talk about how the
Nowadays,
extended
that's
universe,
not far-fetched, though.
That's right, he was his AI girlfriend. Ayo.
People often talk about how, there's so much in the expanded universe that they should never have decanonized, and they forget that there's so much in the expanded universe that never should have been canon in the first place.
Mercifully, it was decanonized.
Yeah, people tend to have rose-tinted glasses.
And Lando fell in love with an AI unit, too.
Now, that's true.
That is true.
Quote-unquote, falling in love with a droid is canon. So, yeah. But as I have pointed out
he could
many
fall in
times,
love with anything.
Yeah, Lando is a whole different ball of wax than Luke Skywalker.
And Luke's right hand is technically...
we're not going...
Okay,
anyways,
we're not going there.
question.
We're not going
Next
there.
question.
Not going there. So, yes, Ki-Adi-Mundi being in this episode, my least favorite part. I have a whole mountain of evidence why, and Derek's joke about Luke's robotic hand is now added to that mountain of evidence as to why I hate the fact that Ki-Adi-Mundi was the guy they picked. And Nathan, you're right. They probably picked it because they were all, won't this be funny? Because he's the one guy who should know for sure that this is... No.
But that would make more sense, though, that he would say that, right? That he would say stupid things like that because he isn't a master. Right, so he's never actually being a master.
You've been around for 100 years, and you have failed to obtain the rank of master. You're only on this council because everyone else who was elected at that time is dead.
Certain criteria put in by HR, and there's certain races that he just got the job because he happened to be one of the few races because he's a minority. We already proved
this is affirmative action? What? Oh, jeez.
It's
Rush Limbaugh part of our podcast is now played by Derek. Ageism. That's it. They can't fire him. He's too old.
Yep.
He's too old. That would be ageist.
Well, between him and Yoda, right? So.
Yeah. No, but I kind of like the idea that Ki-Adi-Mundi is now the Ensign Harry Kim of Star Wars and that he never gets promoted. He's been here for over a century, still just a Jedi Knight. But now, wasn't he actually a master in this episode based on the robes? in this episode of The Acolyte, I should say,
He just looked white robes to me. I didn't go that far.
I thought he had I thought white robes were master, yellow robes knight. I need a.
I thought he had yellow
visual...
on his. He was white, but I thought he had the yellow shaw or whatever.
He definitely did not seem to be part of the council, if nothing else.
No, he's not part of the council. No, but then neither is Master Saul. So
right.
I'm gonna look at the credits again because I'm sure somebody out there has screen capped it.
I'll be honest. I didn't even consider that Ki-Adi-Mundi anyways because you guys were the ones telling about it in the chat, and I'm like, well, I just assumed it was another Syrian Jedi.
I'll be honest. I did too at first, and it wasn't until I saw the discourse, or shall we say discord, online later that I realized that it was meant to be Ki-Adi-Mundi. In fact, I saw also a member of Plo Koon's species, and I actually thought that might have been Plo Koon. And it turns out that one was not. That was a different character, which I thought was interesting because if Dave Filoni had anything to say about it, Plo Koon would have been the one to show up.
Yeah.
Not Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Yeah, but then that would have made Plo Koon look worse, though, because
that's true, and we don't want Plo Koon to look worse.
Him and Kit Fisto and all that. Like, Ki-Adi-Mundi deserves it. Like, to be honest, between him and Mace, they're the two SOBs that really deserve all the stuff that they get at this point. So.
I mean, Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Oh my gosh, you guys! I didn't think about this, and somebody's probably been throwing popcorn at the podcast this whole time. The folks over at Gizmodo have an article about that really was Ki-Adi-Mundi, and they have this paragraph. It's hysterical. Yes,
I know
the
where
credits
this is
of
going.
Day confirm that is indeed Ki-Adi-Mundi, played here by Derek Arnold, future member of the Jedi Council and noted carer about what of the attacks on the Wookiees. Which, of course, makes his presence in this particular episode even funnier because we have quite a large attack on a Wookiee.
Yep.
You're right, Nathan. You know what? That was the joke that they were going for. They weren't trying to do anything about the Sith haven't been seen for millennia. They wanted what about the attack on the Wookiee?
Oh, no, I think they were going for both.
I said they did both.
Okay.
But in the prequels, this guy basically has 3 lines. Two of them are being wrong about the Sith, and one of them is asking about the attack on the Wookiee.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
They pretty much hit his entire prequel arc.
This is why we don't like him. This is why we don't like him. I always thought he was cool when he first came out, but as we've gotten older and you see the light, I don't like him. So
I think part of the joke too is he should have such a big brain, given how big his head is.
Yeah, he's like a dinosaur.
And
it's like Patrick Star. It's like Patrick Star in SpongeBob. When the top half of his head gets popped off, nothing really matters because his brain's only that big anyway.
That's what I said.
All way
it's
up
just
at the top.
It's just dead skin that's compounded on itself, and
That's
it just
it.
grows.
Yeah. So anyway,
so is this connecting? Question number 3: is this connecting to the Star Wars universe?
I would say so, because question 3 is. What changes did you notice about the larger Star Wars galaxy? And I want to point out that we made that question number 3 way before Ki-Adi-Mundi showed up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just for him, but that definitely qualifies.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you got, Derek? Did you notice any changes?
Nothing really at this point. Surprisingly. People still carry around a lot of rope, and survival gear, and like I said, other than really just like I mentioned. So, when I talked about us when we did the first podcast on episode 1 and 2, so obviously this has got to be at a point in time when there are no these light speed traveling channels. So every ship's got its own light speed hyperdrive at this point to be able to do its own.
The Jedi vessels still notably have to have a thingy attached to do
a ring,
light speed, a ring or a booster or something. For some reason, they either cannot have or do not have built-in hyperdrives.
Well, that's the starfighters. Those were the starfighters, right?
Well, no. Now the ship that
Did
our
I miss
heroes
something?
take, they had a little detachable thing. The ship that our heroes take to the planet to go find Kelnaka had a little detachable
Oh
thing
yeah,
in
yeah,
this
yeah. You're
episode.
right now. Now that I recall, yeah, it does branch off. Yeah, so
So
again,
apparently,
early stages of hyperdrive. Still.
I wonder though if it's some kind of weird. There's a law against Jedi vessels having built-in hyperdrives. They have to have the ring be detachable for some sort of strange, archaic thing, like
So
we
they
don't
can't
want
run
them to
away.
have, but, or we don't want them to have the ability to get to places even faster and less noticeable. Oh, that would be strange.
But they'd be with the High Republic, and the High Republic would allow that because they're like basically the ones that help them do everything. That would be
Maybe
really
it's
weird.
some-
Like that's like giving our
It's-
police cars, V4s
But
and
remember-
not V8s.
Remember, though, the Jedi are monks, basically, at this point. Master Carl derogatorily calls them crazed monks. What if they have some weird, deeply restrictive interpretation of some ancient Jedi scripture about, thou shalt not have hyperdrives built
Now
into
it's
your
religion.
ships.
Like can't eat
And
meat,
they're
can't
all-
go hyperdrive.
That's right. We can't. It's like a version of Jedi Amish, and like we can have a horse and buggy, but we can't have a combustion engine. So we can have a starship, but we can't travel through hyperspace. So the ship doesn't travel through hyperspace. The thing
That's
does.
the loophole.
And drags the ship with it. Oh my god!
Wow.
I will be so impressed if this turns out to be the case. And
I
you know,
will
it'll
be
be
shocked if they ever talk about it.
It'll be revealed in some weird comic that will be retconned 15 years from now in whatever.
Is
new
Ki-Adi-Mundi's
Star Wars
in it?
series. Ki-Adi-Mundi will
Ki-Adi-Mundi
build
will-
a starship that has a
Yeah.
built-in hyperdrive, and he'll be all, well, actually, back in the day, we used to think this was totally against the ways of the Force, but it's not.
I learned this from some guy with a red lightsaber who was totally not a Sith.
And he wasn't a Wookiee, or he was a
Hey,
Wookiee.
and Ki-Adi-Mundi will be all,
I know
remember
he
when they
wasn't going
said
to
my...
Sith 'cause he was a Wookiee?
Remember when they said my species males age faster than the females, so I was gonna die when I was 65? Anyway.
So I did find the credits. He is listed as Master Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Boom! He's already a master. It's
Already a
retconning
master.
the retcon. So the only Jedi Knight to be on the council, absolute nonsense now.
Yep.
Anyways,
So that's going to be
So,
my
yeah,
answer for connections to the larger Star Wars galaxy. Although, actually, I think my real change is the propensity for Jedi to have lightsabers that are neither blue nor green. Because when we had that group, that Darth Teeth
dispersed.
dispersed, several
With
of
the Force
them,
wave?
several of them had yellowish orange lightsabers, and that's not a change that Jedi have had those, but it is a bit unusual for that larger percentage of the Jedi to have them. Now, it could just be that more of the Jedi who happen to have the yellow-orange lightsabers in this case. Could be a kind of a blip in terms of statistics, but it still seemed odd.
Okay, so can my change to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy be related to previous episodes of The Acolyte? Because there was a pretty big
Absolutely.
change in this one. May has decided that since her sister didn't actually get killed, she doesn't have to seek revenge against the Jedi, so she's all, Misa giving up, and, is ready to turn herself into the Jedi. Now, a lot of people have been pissed about that. They're like, oh, what a crazy about face for her. And I'm like, when we had the part of the episode at the beginning of this episode, she was talking to Kamir about how actually my sister's not dead, and I found out that it wasn't the Jedi that killed her, and so on and so forth, and so I was screaming at my TV. So why are you still trying to get revenge on all these people for killing your sister when A, they didn't kill her, and B, of course, obviously you can't get revenge for someone's death if they ain't dead. And then later in that episode, she's all, you know what? My sister's not dead. I'm not real sure why I'm still doing this, and it's getting more and more difficult to pull off. So I don't want to go fight a Wookiee. I'm out.
And can you
I was
blame her?
like, this is a pretty big change of what I thought. Like Derek was talking about earlier, this is a pretty big change of what I thought this show was going to be about. Which on the one hand is kind of annoying, but on the other hand is kind of like Well, this is interesting that they're definitely defying my expectations. And I have noticed with the grognards out there, when we get a Star Wars story that is all, this is not going to go the way you think, that's the stuff they hate the most. We like to lampoon them for hating on the DEI, as Derek was talking about, the diversity and whatnot. Sure, they hate on that stuff, but not all of them. Really, what I have found is that a lot of your Star Wars fans who want to hate on stuff online, they're doing it for the money, of course, because hate is unfortunately monetized by all of the algorithms on social media. But two, they don't like it when it deviates from what they were expecting. Didn't like The Last Jedi because Luke didn't act the way that he should. Which is actually, didn't like The Last Jedi because Luke didn't act the way that I thought he was going to. And didn't like, and Rian Johnson's storytelling is all about subverting or, surpassing expectations. Just watch, Knives Out.
Yeah, his movies are great. We can praise his movies.
And I think Leslie...
I praise The Last Jedi.
I think Leslie is operating under the same storytelling auspices here. This is not going to go the way that you think. And some people hate that. And some people think it's very creative, and they applaud artists for pulling that off, right? And that is definitely the case here in this episode, specifically of The Acolyte, because May does a complete about-face, although absolute motivation there of, wait, my sister's not even dead, and the Jedi aren't the ones who killed her? Why am I hunting them down? My motivation for revenge is gone. And Kimir, of course, is all like, whoa, hey, you can't do this, but of course she can. And she does. And I think that there's an interesting side note here that is not related to this question, so pardon my rabbit trail. Kimir being the apprentice, as Derek has pointed out, which makes a whole lot of sense to me.
You mean the master?
He is... Kimir being the apprentice of whoever is the real master. I think Kimir is still the apprentice. And I think whoever's in the
that's
red
what you're thinking. That wasn't what I said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But, right. But I'm saying you got me down to think down that path.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so Kimir is pulling off the challenge of kill a Jedi without using a weapon by using May to kill Jedi. And so he will then go to Darth Teeth and be all, look, I fulfilled your challenge. Make me an actual Sith because I pulled this off. By manipulating May into killing all these Jedi, that's me killing Jedi without using a weapon.
I had a question about that. If you'll pardon me for going down my own rabbit trail.
Sure.
With the way they said kill a Jedi without a weapon, that could be read two different ways.
Except that they've said it... I know what you're about to say, but go ahead.
Yeah, kill a Jedi without using a weapon, which is how they have been interpreting it. But it could also mean kill a Jedi who does not have a weapon.
Right. Except that and I'd have to go dig up some dialogue, but I was involved in a discussion on social media about that second interpretation of, well, what if it was the Jedi needs to be unarmed? The way they've talked about it is that she has to do it when May is not using a weapon.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the way they have been talking about it. But I think there's a possibility that later on she will realize that, wait, no, what they really meant was kill a defenseless Jedi.
Which would have been, in theory, Master Turbin, though. Because I don't know he had his lightsaber on, right? But she didn't get the point because the poison was considered a weapon.
But so Nathan, you're thinking that both Kimir and May have misinterpreted this.
Yes.
Because both of them have talked about how you have to do... Interesting. Okay. Which makes it harder for your theory to come true if Kimir ends up being the master.
But if Kimir is the apprentice...
If Kimir's the apprentice...
And they were both given this challenge, and they're both misinterpreting it, and they're reinforcing each other's misinterpretation.
Oh, yes.
And then she actually did succeed in killing Torben, but never went to the master to say, oh yeah, I killed this Jedi who didn't have a weapon, because she herself thinks she hasn't fulfilled the challenge.
Of course, I wonder if beginning in episode 5, she's going to be all like, I don't even care what the master has to say.
That's true too. Yeah. I guess the overall point here is there's lots of places they could go with this.
This is not going to go the way you think. Despite how many
question 5.
All right, yes, question... That's true. But first, question 4, which is, Will the next episode be titled Night, and will it show the aftermath of the fight with Darth Teeth? And I think the answer is yes, it is going to be called Night, but no, it won't show the aftermath, it will just show the fight. I think episode 5 is going to be all lightsaber fight all the time. Derek?
I mean, it would preview agree with you otherwise because it's going to be basically the horror episode where they run through the woods scattered while he hunts them all down, and they'll keep finding it. So we'll see the scene of where I don't know if it's who says it, but I think it might have been Yor that says it. Someone's hunting down Jedi and killing them. So that will be that scene at some point. We'll hear that actually. We'll see the flying red lightsaber cut through the trees and then catch it. So I'm going to guess this is, like I said, this is where my earlier comment about what is the Acolyte trying to be. It's trying to be a little bit of everything in genre. So this, like I said, will be the horror episode where they're the slasher chasing them down, which again, I'm for. I'm nothing wrong with that as long as it's executed well, which, like I said, the thing I haven't liked about this is they do a lot of things and they're doing them okay, but they're not doing them well, like Andor, for example, because I knew exactly what Andor wanted to be. So, anyway.
The killer already has a mask on, so chasing the kids through
and it's
Camp
a
Crystal
horror-looking
Lake
mask,
in the
like the
forest.
Fiend or something, right? So
Yeah. He's chasing the kids through Camp Crystal Lake's forest, and he has his lightsaber.
So I'm going to say no. You're both wrong. I'm going to say
sure.
no. The next episode is not going to be titled Night. The next episode is going to be titled Free Will, because it's not going to be the opposite of day. It's going to be the opposite of destiny, which was the previous episode. And we're not going to see Darth Teeth. Yeah, we're going to see flashback. We're not going to see Darth Teeth chasing down the Jedi yet. That's going to be the next week's episode, which will be named Night. Episode 6 will be Night. Episode 5, I think, will be Free Will, and it's going to be a flashback. We're going to see that fight between Kelnaka and Torben that we have seen in previews, and part of the whole idea of it is going to be one of them is mind controlled by the witches, so that's where the free will aspect will come in.
Boy, Derek, talk about your slow burn. If we had this episode 4 end with Darth Teeth being all whoosh and, oh my gosh, a big fight. Just kidding. And then next week, also just kidding, you're going to have to wait another week to see the big lightsaber fight that you were so wanting. Talk about your teasing slow burn. Oh, man. I hope you're wrong, Nathan, but I feel like you're right.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I said it.
And that's why he's going right into question number 5 then.
Question 5. Halfway through the series now, where do we think this story is going to take us in the back half? Derek, this was your question, so take it away. What's the deal?
Okay, so we've been kind of piecing stuff on the side, right, in our chats and what we've been talking and all this stuff. So going to say what it is, where, you know, I'm not opposed to Nathan's suggestion. That'll be you know, going to the past and looking at that. But this is where I think, there's a flashback. So this is where I think we'll be going. So we've talked about it. So the Dr. Teeth, what I like to see at this point is going to end up being May and Osha's brother, as we talked about. So what I feel like...
we haven't talked about that on the show yet, so elaborate as you will for our viewers.
So as we've talked about, right, so we have May and Osha as the twins, right? And if folks are familiar enough with the Night Sisters, which we've seen plenty of in the Clone Wars, and obviously a little bit with Morgan Elsbeth and what we got in Ahsoka, right? Males are not allowed in the Coven or in the Sisterhood, which doesn't mean that they are not subject to having males, though, in that species. So what will happen is we'll get, at some point, a flashback, and maybe that's where we get in this episode, where it's going to be the mother, what was her, Coral and mother,
Coral.
Coral and mother...
Anastasia.
So we know that they're using black magic to basically have children, right? To try and continue the legacy. We don't know enough in Night Sister if that's how they always have kids, or if they do, like Amazonians, what was it from Futurama's Floof Floof, or what was it? What
Death
was that?
by Snoo Snoo.
Snoo. That's right. Yeah. So they do that every so often to.
I thought you were going to make a Wonder Woman joke about Amazonians
well, they do that
reproducing
too.
by sculpting them out of clay. And
well,
then,
they could do that too, right? Yeah. So, but there's a lot of things that they could be inspired to do, right? But they're going to basically be doing that. But before they have Osha and May, they do have another child, and that's going to be a male. And they obviously know that they can't keep the male. So as we talked about, right, Mother Coral will be all against it. We can't keep males, blah, 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 dispose of this baby, right? And Mother Anastasia, sorry, whatever. Anastasia. I'm terrible at names. I need them in front
Mother
of me
Anastasia.
to go through. Anastasia is obviously, being the warm-hearted mother that she is, won't kill the baby. So she'll take him way off the property of wherever they're Brendok, right, was the name of the planet.
Yep, Brendok. Yep.
So she'll take him into the woods, blah, 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 and be raised by somebody, right? But obviously he's going to be force sensitive. So then what's going to happen is then the real, which might be Master Corum, will
Come
be
here.
Come here. Sorry. Come here.
I'm gonna make you flashcards.
No, I guess I should probably pull up all the cast as we go through this. But basically, he'll find Dr. Teeth as non-Dr. Teeth at this point, as a baby, and he's going to train him. And so, what's going to happen though is that he is going to be basically, at some point at other, he's going to be either disfigured or just grow to hate them because they've basically banished him, not realizing that, that one tried to save him, but the other one tried to kill him, blah, blah, blah. Right. But whatever that fester happens, and that'll be where he becomes the dark side. But the thing that we haven't seen yet is then he is going to have the master of some type of illusionary from the way he's going to train them. And they're basically going to say the flashbacks that we've seen aren't really the flashbacks. What it's been this whole time is that they've been able to cast this evil fog or illusion over the Night Sisters and the Jedi, and what they think is actually what we've seen so far in the past in the flashbacks isn't really what happened, because we'll find out this is part of what earlier is Nathan's question, which I was holding myself from not responding because I'm going diving into this one. That's why Master Kanaka has been seeing that vision of Anastasia's, swirly thing, right? As well as Master Turban is realizing, hey, I apologize for what we did, because they're starting to see the fog lifted to some degree, and they're getting these visions. And it's almost like nightmare flashes, right? That they're having these nightmare flashes of trying to figure out what the truth is from what the dark side's blinded them. And this is going to lead of how Sidious this whole time was able to do what he did literally right in front of the Jedi. And that's where we're going to learn this superpower of how then he is going to be able to do that literally in front of them by creating this illusion, suppressing the dark side to the point, and we're going to get a bit more into that. But again, the idea is that Dr. Teeth is the brother of the two. And we'll probably get something down to your line of having to kill a Jedi without a weapon, whatever interpretation that is. We'll get that at some point. That'll be the key thing at the end of the season. But that's where I feel like we're going to go in this back half of uncovering this whole messy family issues that they have, but leading into a bit more lore about the Sith and how they're able to do what they're able to do 100 years from now at the Phantom Menace.
Interesting. Yeah, I like how your whole theory about false memories and obfuscation absolutely plays into Yoda. The dark side clouds everything, right? And so that was totally happening in the prequel era, and so it would make sense that Sidious is beginning to move about in that way, or the Sith Emperor, if you will, in that way, even all this way back in the tail end of the High Republic, because at some point the Force is going to try to balance itself out, right? And so he's trying to do that the other way around by having, some kind of pushback against the dominance of the light side, or at least the dominance of the Jedi. Ki-Adi-Mundi and friends seem to imply that fallen Jedi are a thing, even in this era, when they talk about how the Creekster that is going around killing Jedi is probably just some kind of fallen Jedi. Especially when they initially thought it was Osha herself, whom they would probably describe as a fallen Jedi, because she got the boot from the Jedi Order.
She left.
Yeah, exactly. I think that to answer your question, where is this story going to take us in the back half of the season, we will find out who is Darth Teeth, and I think that Master Saul is going to die saving Osha in some way, because as Nathan always likes to point out correctly, in Star Wars, redemption equals death. And he does need to be redeemed because he was there during the whole massacre, even though he appears to be the one that was least likely to massacre the Night Sisters that were Osha and May's mothers and sisters. And he also saved Osha, like physically. I really thought he was going to use the Force to save her that night. And maybe he did, if Derek's theory is correct and he's remembering it incorrectly. But be that as it may, that's what's going to happen. And I think that both May and Osha are going to end up working together to defeat whoever is Darth Teeth, and we will find out that May and Osha are another dyad in the Force, the way that Rey and Kylo Ren or Ben Solo were in The Rise of Skywalker. And of course, this whole multiple interpretations of the same events being told out through different perspectives, which is exactly what we got in The Last Jedi as well, when we had Luke's vision of what happened that night on the planet where there was a new Jedi temple, where he might have tried to kill Kylo Ren, and then we had Kylo Ren's perspective on it, and then of course we had what actually happened that night, etc. I think that's continuing with this style of storytelling in contemporary Star Wars stories. The idea that things are true from a certain point of view. They even have a series of books out nowadays, from a certain point of view, that add different stories to already existing moments in the Star Wars pantheon. And so that's where I think we're going in the back half of the season. Mysteries will be revealed. Multiple versions of that night on the planet where Osha and May were born on Brindok will be shown. And Master Saul is going to die saving the day, noble sacrifice time, and the two girls will finally make amends, team up, and use their amazing Force powers to stop the bad guy. Nathan, your answer to question 5?
I think Scott's closer to what's actually going to happen, but I do think that almost all of the Jedi who have come to this planet are going to not make it off the planet. I think the one person from their contingent who makes it off the planet is going to be Yord, and he's not going to be a Jedi when he does it. I think seeing the rest of his crew slaughtered is going to break him, because oftentimes it's the people who are the least flexible who break the easiest. And he certainly comes across as the least flexible of all the Jedi we've seen so far in this show. So I think we will get a season 2 Acolyte, and it's going to be him being the new Acolyte. And that this is going to be kind of the start of his story, and that will end up leading into Darth Plagueis and then into Darth Sidious, but that it's going to take a little bit longer. In fact, I'm going to say that Yord might even be Plagueis.
Whoa.
Still going under that one, huh? I'm good with that.
You think that I thought the one Jedi that might survive, because May and Osha will save the day after the fact that a bunch of Jedi died, I thought it'd be Jekki, the girl played by X-23, who's the name of the actress.
The one with the pink.
Yeah.
Seeing her die is going to be the breaking point for Yord.
Ooh. Okay, I could see that. I could see that happening. Again,
Daphne
I hope you're
Keane.
wrong. Daphne Keane, thank you very much. The Jedi played by Daphne Keane, I hope survives, but I could absolutely see you being correct in that.
And also, Darth Teeth is going to kill Basil in a real kick the puppy moment.
Not Basil! I need my little Bucky Beaver in Star Wars. Now I really want to get a Bucky stuffy and dress him like Basil. Oh my gosh, that'd be so fun. Anyway, well, if any of those things happen, and gosh, we named so much stuff, at least one of those things has to happen, right? If any of those things
But again,
happen,
that's what we talked about. That's why a bunch of people are pissed off, because what we talked about may not happen.
Yeah,
that's right.
At least the majority of the things we talked about aren't going to happen. They can't.
Some of our stuff was contradictory. So.
Yeah, a lot of it. Most of it. 99%.
Whatever happens, we're going to talk about it here on What a Piece of Junk. But we're not the only fans out there on the Fandom Podcast Network talking about the thing that we love. There's a bunch of us here doing a bunch of podcasts. And here to tell us about all those other shows is our friend Kevin.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Bloody Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, thanks very much, Kevin. Well, guys, just a little antidote to all that darkness we were talking about with all those Darksiders in The Acolyte is a beaming ray of light, thank you very much, as we see that Daisy Ridley posted the most adorable video on her Instagram feed over the weekend when she went to Disneyland to take in the sights at Galaxy's Edge in California. And if you haven't watched this video of Daisy Ridley seeing herself perform as a hologram on a Disneyland ride, and how giddy and just happy as a schoolgirl she is, you need to do yourself a favor and go watch the footage. It was freaking cute. And so she's just so excited to be part of one of the highest rated rides in all of Disney history. That is, of course, Rise of the Resistance. And when she is watching herself appear as a hologram, she turns back and looks at the camera and just makes this face like, ee! And I'm all, this is just absolute wholesome content that I need right now. And I can't wait for Rey to come back in her new movie. And of course, she also took a moment out of her trip to Disneyland to interact with the young lady who plays Rey for live character appearances in Galaxy's Edge. Derek, have you seen this?
No, I haven't. I mean, obviously, I've seen a couple of pictures of the thing, but I didn't watch the actual video. It's a shame that Daisy just, it's been 4 years since Rise of Resistance has been out, and she just hasn't made a chance. Now, granted, a couple of years have been, you could say, COVID, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But it's just a shame that, now that she's probably feeling a bit more optimistic about Star Wars, fans have been a little bit more welcoming. Some of that clutter from the hate that she got back, all the way from 2015 when they first started with The Force Awakens. Though I feel like 17 and 19 was more the flack she probably got from those two movies. Just good to see her, embracing the character again in the fandom. Like you said, I'll be excited when I get to see an actual trailer. And not just announcements and all this stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully, like I said, they get some good writers to help write a good story for her, because she deserves it. So
Nathan, have you seen this video, or at least the photos? We got nothing from you there, Nathan. Your Shirley translator is broken again. There we go. Okay.
I've seen the photos. I've not seen the actual video. But I have to admit, if I were in Star Wars and I got put into a ride at Disney and then I saw myself in that ride, I'd have pretty much the same reaction. That has to just feel incredible. To be like, look, it's Star Wars and it's me. And I'm part of Star Wars.
Every day Nathan would be telling us, Scott, I'm in Star Wars.
That's right. Like, hey, you know that ride in Disney World? We're like, yes, Nathan. We know.
I would introduce myself. Hi, I'm Nathan. Insert name of character here.
Here's me on a card.
Hey.
Well, come on, Kevin often does that anyway, and he's like, this is me.
That's
I mean, to be fair though, he is on a card.
He is on a card.
Yes.
He's actually in a toy action figure as well, so it's official.
Yeah.
Well, but it's non-canon, so later Ki-Adi-Mundi can come by and tell him your name is actually something else.
No. Ki-Adi-Mundi will have killed Telkin Vizeri in some weird new comic book that
somehow he survived and the other one
even though that guy was at Jabba's palace, and Ki-Adi-Mundi most definitely died in episode 3.
He just got shut down by some clones. So.
Yeah, he got up later.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
He got up later.
Sure.
It's like there's a video going on around social media right now that has all the people dying in Star Wars that later turned out to be okay, and because it's spoofing the idea that people were upset that the Emperor turned out to be okay. Well, okay is a stretch. He was in pretty bad shape, but anyway, and it basically starts with Obi-Wan chopping up Anakin and Anakin bursting into flames, and Obi-Wan's like, there's no way he could have survived that, and he walks off, and then we see the Boba Fett get thrown into the Sarlacc pit, and Chewie leans over the edge of the thing and goes, there's no way he could have survived that, and Han goes, survived what? I can't see anything. And then we see Vader chop off Luke's hand, and Luke falls down the pit, and Vader goes, well, there's no way he could have survived that. And then, of course, Vader throws the Emperor down the shaft, and Luke is all, phew, thank goodness, there's no way he could have survived that. Anyway.
I'm sure there was one where Maul fell down
Obi-Wan
the
looking
shaft,
down
and
the
Obi-Wan,
thing. There's
no way he could survive that.
It's really good. I'll have to find the link. I'll send it to you guys in the chat. Anyway, but yeah, speaking of people getting turned into action figures and collecting Daisy Ridley figures, if you guys want some cool merchandise, you should hang out for just a second when I tell you about how you can get some. But first, we're going to talk about cool merchandise that we have right now on this episode of the podcast. And that is, of course, with Derek's favorite segment of the show. What t-shirt/merch do we have this week? And Derek, you've got something, again, off the wall, but something that
I do have a shirt, though.
You do have a shirt too,
yes.
So I may have to check out
I've got
your
a lot
bonus
today.
item.
I've got a lot.
Oh, well,
so I
take it away.
I got to catch up because I've had way too much. I've got too much stuff, anyways. But let's be honest.
Also, this is your favorite part of the show. So, what in the? Oh, it's Chewbacca and some Ewoks chibi mode stealing an ATST on Endor. That's an excellent shirt, and it's nice and forest green.
Yeah, I like it.
And then I got some stuff. Like I said, I know Nathan. I know he'll appreciate at least the artwork, but he's not much of a coffee drinker. So Bones Coffee has their Star Wars flavors. So as we were joking, if you have anything coffee related in your Amazon or on your cell phone packaging, or in the data of your cell phone, I'm sure Bones Coffee's on your Facebook feed. So the first one, and they finally got the K-Cups in because the coffee grinds has been out for like 2 or 3 months, but I only wanted the K-Cups because I only drink a cup of coffee a day for the most part. So the first flavor I got is the Wookiee Cookie, which this one's got a picture of Chewbacca, and then there's Han and Leia in the back looking displeased on the Millennium Falcon.
They're on the Falcon. Yeah,
yep.
there's the Jarek table.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
And I'm proud that they spelled Wookiee correctly, because
Yes,
this
good
is
job,
one of the
Bones
most common places where I see Wookiee spelled with one E.
Yeah,
when
because
they
it
follow
rhymes with cookie, right? Wookie
Yeah.
cookie. So, and then the other flavor I got is the dark side chocolate truffle. So if you can see who's
Whoa.
on that one.
Oh, it's Vader with his lightsaber ignited, the Emperor doing some electric mayhem, and of course a stormtrooper, a classic stormtrooper at that.
Yes. And then the third flavor I got is the Twin Sun tiramisu.
Oh, and this is a nice Tatooine scene with Luke with lightsaber and shorty robe, and Obi-Wan in old man robes with lightsaber, and then R2 and 3PO wandering through the desert on Tatooine with the Lars Homestead outbuilding behind them.
Yep. So I have I'm right now working through the Wookiee cookie because it's got 12 cups in it. So I've been doing that for few days now. I was traveling last week, so I didn't get to drink it as much through. But no, it's good. It's like most coffees, I don't drink by themselves. So I actually tried this by itself just to see if I would like it. And it definitely has the kind of that chocolate chip cookie flavor to it. But it's also just black coffee. So it still tastes burnt a bit. But adding a bit of creamer and sweetener to it, it's pretty good. I like it so far. So
So it very much has that dark side roast.
yes. So even though it's got chewy on it, right? So, yeah, no, it's good. I like it. Like I said, it definitely has it. So I'll keep you gents posted on the truffle and the tiramisu when I get to that.
Good times, good times.
Excellent artwork, even if I don't drink the coffee.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one of these things where I'm all like, you guys know that for Father's Day, I got a cold brew pitcher that says, "May the Force be with you," and has a lightsaber handle on it, with the lightsaber handle deconstructed to have the emitter and the Kyber crystal visible, which is really cool. It's like a lightsaber schematic. And then that is like the thing on the other side, it shows how many cups worth of coffee are in the pitcher. Which I had it this morning before church, and I finally got some official Starbucks creamer to make it taste like their caramel macchiato, but it is the zero sugar version, and it was really good and a whole lot cheaper than going to Starbucks on a Sunday. So, yeah.
But are you eating any of your Star Wars Oreo cookies? You didn't bring any.
I have. I didn't bring any upstairs. I should have done. I'll do that next episode because I got a 10-pack, and God help me if I eat all of them before this next week's episode. I'll be in a diabetic coma for real. Anyway, but yes, Mita and I have had a couple, and the first two that we opened were both dark side, and I was all, oh man. And then but today we did open one, and it was light side, so the balance is slowly creeping its way back. But have you guys had any of these yet? The Oreos?
Yeah, yes. I went to my parents' house the other weekend, and we had a light side box. So
have you done the thing? Does anybody else eat Oreos the traditional way, where you twist them off?
Twist them off? Yes. So and there's like a white center to it.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. All of this is a clever facade. They didn't dye all of the filling. In the center, the filling is still white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably some spray paint that they did as it went through. So,
yeah. But part of me wants it to be some kind of commentary about how Ahsoka's lightsabers are white.
That's
on the inside we're all, neutral. Maybe we're all gray, and Nathan and Filoni will be pissed off. So
yeah, because there's no such thing as a gray Jedi.
But we're all born gray.
We're all born.
Oh.
That's Oreo
my lovely
cookies.
assistant has provided me with.
There we go.
Thanks, babe.
Mita was listening. Thanks.
Mita is listening. So yes, we have some ye old. Man, I got to get a different light for this thing. But anyway, Star Wars Oreo cookies, light side versus dark side.
Is a Star Destroyer on there in the packaging?
Yeah. So I'm wearing my Mandalorian Bounty Hunter shirts before I forget to mention that. And so now we're going to do some live
big reveal
pack opening. What is that? We talk about packs. We're going to crack some packs.
Wrong packs though.
Oh, I am in fact dark side on this particular pack.
Evil.
Evil.
But that would be
appropriate. I will say,
Acolyte.
we had a full-sized packet for ours. So I'm wondering if those tend to be dark side more often, and the bigger packs tend to be light side.
Maybe, but I think it's just random. And I think this is supposed to be Count Dooku.
Count Dooku. It looks like 3PO.
But 3PO wouldn't be dark side.
But they're not gonna have that.
He speaks Sith.
I would be amazed if they had that lined up perfectly, where the cookie shape was lined with the appropriate color.
That's absolutely
that's what they were
supposed
to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kudos to them then. All right.
Yeah. All right. And so my other Darksider is once again Count Dooku. All right. And now, while Nathan tells you about his shirt, I'm going to prepare to open the other pack in hopes that it will be light side.
Well, with how hot it's been here, I decided to go ahead and put on my pajamas today. So I am wearing...
We absolutely have lost your audio once again, Nathan.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
It has been so hot here today that I decided to go ahead and put on my pajamas. So I'm wearing my Rex shirt with the tally marks for how many droid kills I've got, the blue shoulder pad for the armor, and of course the tally marks on the backside as well.
And all the wolf accoutrement.
The Rex, it's all Rex.
No, but I mean your wolf pack implication there, because he's part of the wolf pack.
No, he's not.
Rex is not. Sure, he is.
No.
What?
No, the wolf pack is Commander Wolf. That's Plo Koon's clones.
No. Okay, the group of characters that Dave Filoni has created that he sort of rolls into all of his stories. His own personal wolf pack.
All right. Well, okay.
Not the squadron of clone troopers who are named the Wolfpack. I see where you have been confused. But yeah,
I do not want you being confused.
Yeah. All right. Good news. The other pack was light side. So let's see what light side characters we have. If I can get
Perfectly balances. All things
Well,
should.
that'd be-
Wait, no, that's the wrong thing.
I believe
That's
that's
Luke.
Luke Skywalker.
That definitely looked like Luke.
I thought
Yeah,
it was
and
Anakin,
then-
like young Anakin.
Looks
Might
like
be young Anakin.
if
But
King
I
of the
think-
Hill did a Star Wars version.
And I
That's
think
Han.
this is Han Solo.
Yeah. Looks
Or
more like
Dash
Aaron
Rendar.
Aldrich.
Dash Rendar. I'd pay real money if there was a Dash Rendar cookie in this box. That would be amazeballs.
You couldn't eat it though.
anyway.
You'd have to reseal it and get it graded.
Yep.
So
That's right. Put it on a cookie on a slab. Good times. Well, anyway, if you guys do want your own cool What a Piece of Junk merchandise, please check out the Fandom Podcast Network store at tpublic.com, where you can get a What a Piece of Junk t-shirt or mousepad or coffee mug from which to drink your Bones Star Wars coffee. And then, of course, Nathan, please tell us where people can find us on the internet.
Well, on the internet, of course, and just about anywhere on the internet. That's right. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, or YouTube. Pretty much anywhere pods are cast, you can find us. You can also reach us at What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast on Facebook. You can email us at whatapieceofjunkpod@gmail.com. On Twitter, Kyle runs that is at WhatWars. And on Instagram, you can get the entire Fandom Podcast Network at Fandom Podcast Network. What we lack in creativity, we make up for in accuracy. And
Not while I'm eating cookies. I'm going
as
to toss
accurate
my cookies.
as the canon of Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Oh my god! Way to bring it 360. All right.
Of course, whatever platform you listen to us on, we would love for you to give us a review. It does a few things for us. One, it lets us know what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, and how we can serve you better. It also brings more people to the platform so that they can hear our wonderful talkings about Ki-Adi-Mundi and everything else Star Wars. But Derek, why else do we want to get those reviews?
I mean, you really hit it on the nail. If you don't want us to keep talking about Ki-Adi-Mundi, then leave us a review and 5 stars, and we'll stop talking. If you want us to keep talking about them, leave 5 stars review, and we'll keep talking about them. Either way, leave us a 5-star review and tell us whether you want to or not. If you also want us to make sure that Scott keeps opening up packs of minty fresh Oreos that are themed Star Wars, let us know. over on the 5-star review. That's what we appreciate. When you don't, then we don't know whether you're enjoying it or not. We enjoy it because we're having fun with this show. But as listeners, the space junkies out there, it really helps keep the coaxium going in the Drunken Gungan so we can keep, at least again, entertaining ourselves at least. But otherwise, if we hopefully entertaining the listeners out there, leave those 5-star reviews on, like you mentioned, Nathan, any of the platforms that you're downloading, streaming us, even on YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe button, whatever you can to make sure that, again, we're having fun. We want to make sure you guys are having fun out there as well.
I was going to say, if you want me to stop talking about Ki-Adi-Mundi, send more cookies. So just fill my mouth with cookies. I can't complain about all the retcons to Ki-Adi-Mundi and the Syrian species in general.
Maybe we should rename this title of the episode when we publish it to
to the Ki-Adi-Mundi
episode.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna do.
That'll help the algorithm, right? So
it will help the algorithm. It will. Good times. Okay, well, anyway, whatever happens on the next episode, you can be sure that we're going to discuss it ad nauseum. But we want to thank you for listening, and remember, especially during contentious times such as these, always respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.